Welcome to the Baselines to Sidelines podcast. My name is Nick. Welcome to the show today. Today we're going to be talking about, well, quite frankly, a lot of things today. A couple days ago, the Rockies had signed Willi Castro, and more or less that's going to be talked about for what that means for the Rockies starting lineup and how that's going to play for opening day and also for the young guys. You have Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers. A lot of people outside of essentially LA and some of the small market teams have a lot of feelings in that. And then we are also going to be getting into less than a month till spring training. Mainly pitchers and catchers are reporting. So let's dive right on in and let's have some fun. So to start off, the Rockies had signed Willi Castro to a 2-year, $12.8 million deal. Early, the Rockies, I would say the Rockies signed Willi Castro. This is kind of a upgraded Thairo Estrada. Because last year, Thairo Estrada was brought in to play second base, especially since the Rockies moved on from Brendan Rodgers. This is essentially a 1 to 2 year rental. The Rockies right now, with their farm system, don't have many uber solid, big league ready players down in AAA, AA. I know they have a couple down in High A Spokane, but AA Hartford and AAA Albuquerque, outside of Adiel Amador, which I've kind of lost a lot of confidence in him. The Rockies have no answer at second base. So he's going to really be that rental for the Rockies. A much improved Thairo Estrada, more or less, to play second base. He's a relatively cheap signing at just over $6 million per year on the $12.8 million deal. Defensively, he is really, really solid. His WAR, wins above replacement, for people who don't know what WAR is a negative 0.5. So he essentially makes no difference, in my opinion, unless when it comes to WAR, at least in my opinion now, I could be wrong, but when it comes to WAR, unless it's above a 2 or a negative 2, the difference is not, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, otherworldly. He's really more there to play defense. His hitting, so last year with the Cubs and Minnesota, because he did play on Minnesota for a short period of time to start the season. In total for 2025, played in 120 games, had 454 plate appearances with 402 at bats. 58 runs to 91 hits. Strikeouts 111. Would like to see that go down, with a 226 batting average, 313 on base percentage, and a 366 slugging. Essentially below average stats, without a doubt. I would really like to see him be more of that 2023, 2024 type player. I don't think you're going to get the time he played in Detroit, where he had significantly better stats, not otherworldly stats. But his best year, from what I've read, would be right around what he had in 2023, with a 257 batting average, a 339 on base percentage with a 411 slugging, and a 750 OPS. So he has much to improve on, and I think definitely playing at altitude, ball flies better. The Rockies have essentially the largest outfield. I mean, it's a hitter's park for a reason. It is not a pitcher's park. And I think even your most casual baseball fans can figure that out. So I think he can improve these stats, but he's not going to be there strictly for the hitting. He's going to be there more for the defense, especially for what happened in 2025. The Rockies could use a bit more solid infield defense. So I like this pick a lot. Now, it brings in veteran leadership into a young room. I think you've heard me say it in the past couple episodes. You've also heard me, I think, on my Twitter. I've definitely talked about it a handful of times. And you're going to hear me say it probably even up to opening day. With how young this Rockies team is, any ounce of veteran leadership is going to be a good thing. Because in 2025, with how young that team was, there was so much inexperience, so much lack of chemistry, that you're looking at a team that can struggle a lot, and they absolutely did. You're not going to go anywhere with 119 losses. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this signing of Willi Castro. It's one of those where you kind of get what you get for type deals. It's an upgraded Thairo Estrada, and hopefully not the injuries of Thairo Estrada. Knock on wood. But that's more what you're looking at when it comes to Willi Castro. Now, I think what we're going to get into as far as the meat of this episode, because I am going to go light on the Rockies talk this episode, is going to be the Kyle Tucker signing with the Dodgers. And for me, this harks back to my first episode when I was talking about the collective bargaining agreement coming up in 2027. This almost, without a doubt, locks the fact that there's going to be a strike. Because you have the richest of rich owners in the LA Dodgers who already have, well, now counting this, the Dodgers have over $2 billion in guaranteed contracts, with over $1 billion in deferred money over the next 15 years at least. This is just a rough estimate that I've looked at and also calculated myself. $1 billion that they're just able to kick down the road. As if the payroll wasn't insane enough, it just keeps getting more insane with no punishment to the Dodgers. Yeah, there's the luxury tax punishment, but when you have the Dodgers, when you have the fandom that the Dodgers have, and you have the brand that they have, which I'll get into that more here in a sec, the luxury tax means nothing to them. They can make that up in 2 years, at worst. So, to me, this is what the small market teams have been crying about, and quite frankly, baseball fans have been crying out for the past handful of years. There's no parity in Major League Baseball at this point, and right now it looks like there's no parity in sight. You have the Dodgers that are coming off back-to-back championships. You have the perennials who are essentially always going to be in the playoffs with Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, Phillies, Toronto, and small bone to pick, whoever, and there was a handful of people during the World Series when it was Toronto versus the LA Dodgers. When you are calling Toronto a small market team, they have one of the fifth highest revenues with, I think, the fifth or sixth highest payroll. That's not a small market team. Yes, in a roundabout way, they're smaller than the LA Dodgers, but I could also point to 24 other teams that are that. Toronto's not a small market team, guys. Toronto is a big market team, just like the rest of these guys. And there's just no parity really anymore. Yeah, you're going to have one of those darling teams that sneaks in to the playoffs, but where are they really going to go? It's it's one of it's an unfortunate situation for the MLB right now. The MLB needs to figure this out, and the collective bargaining agreement's going to be that. But I know the players don't want this. The players do not want a salary cap. Sorry, my stutter came out there. The players don't want a salary cap. The players don't want to be controlled by their money, which on one hand I completely understand. You know, if you're playing this game and you have these billionaires who are making hand over fist off these TV deals and the merchandise deals, I completely understand and I completely agree. But on a fan perspective, this can't last forever. Even some of the most diehard baseball fans, they're starting to slow down. The the people before my era, because my era, yeah, there's some hardcore baseball fans such as myself. It's not like what it used to be back before my time, my dad's era, you know, uh, even the era before that, where you had people who would go to games on a weekly basis, or you have the people that are willing to shell out the money for whatever sports TV package, which that's a whole other ludicrous thing that I'm going to get into in another episode. You have these people that are willing to spend their money. Those people are not sticking around anymore. Those people are looking at Major League Baseball and saying, why, what's the purpose? Because at this point, it just looks like you're going to have the same four teams in the same position every single year with no parity, no, no, essentially hope. Yeah, you can have some hope, but when you have a team that's just essentially going to buy their championships, and I'm not talking about this because I know I'm going to get some, you know, clap back as far as like I'm just a crying Rockies fan. Yes, I'm a Rockies fan who, well, and I do want to cover the Rockies and cover this small market. But I'm not going to just sit here and say that just because I have a love and appreciation for the Rockies. I'm going to say that because if you want competitive baseball, if you want the level of success, I'm not going to say like the NFL, because the NFL is a whole different beast in and of its own. But, MLB, NHL, you want that piece of the pie, have parity. have it where the Rockies or technically Las Vegas Athletics, or your name a small market team to have be competitive. That's more what it is. It's not about crying as a fan of a certain team. It's more as a baseball junkie like myself, I would love to see more parity in the league than just who has the biggest pockets, who has the willingness to be aggressive and eat the payroll. That's what it is. It the MLB has to get this under control, and it's going to be that CBA. Whether it comes through or not, I'm not going to hold my breath on, you know, this almost guarantees that a lockout will guarantee um, a salary cap, but this this really drives a better chance. I mean, you also have the Dodgers who are going to defer Kyle Tucker's money. 10 million of it is going to be deferred over the final 3 seasons, not including a staggering $64 million signing bonus, with 54 million of that being upfront. Name another team that's doing that outside of maybe the Mets. Nobody. Nobody is doing that. It's the Dodgers doing that. Heck, you have the Dodgers who have the... Now, granted, they have some help behind this with the insane following of the Japanese fan base with the Shohei Ohtani deal. But this... Because with the Shohei Ohtani deal, I mean, Japan, the Dodgers have a stranglehold on Japan right now with Roki Sasaki, Yamamoto, and Shohei Ohtani. And honestly, Shohei Ohtani is borderline a god in Japan at this point. You can't go anywhere. Not that I've been to Japan, but you can look it up. You can't go anywhere in Japan without seeing Shohei Ohtani's face. So the Dodgers have that stranglehold where they can say, you want to come play for the Dodgers? You're a free agent coming out of Japan? Coming out of the Japanese Baseball League? Come to the Dodgers. You're guaranteed pretty much a big contract. You already have an insane following. And you have the benefit of playing around other really good Japanese players. And it also helps that the merchandise... I read an article that I want to say it's close to a 60% increase with the amount of merchandise coming out of Japan. It's unreal, and I don't hate the Dodgers for it. I don't. As much as I dislike them as a team, as a business strategy, I don't hate it. I really can't hate it. However, for the longevity and for the bigger growing success of the league, Rob Manfred and the rest of the owners and the league essentially have to figure this out. Or I still see a downward spiral of Major League Baseball, essentially. I'm not seeing it as without the salary cap, this is the death of Major League Baseball. Because even at the lowest of lows, that there's no way that would happen. But if the Major League Baseball wants to see this continue to grow and become America's pastime again and become a greater success in regards to being up with the big four, then something has to change. Something has to change for the love of the baseball, for love of baseball, for the love of the game, and for the continued fan growth. That's more what I'm talking about, and I think I'm hopefully trying to convey that better than I did in my first episode, where I talked about the CBA agreement. Because that's just what it's looking like. Now, do I think it's going to be a long strike? I don't know. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I know conversations are already volatile, and they haven't even really begun deep discussions because the bigger, harder discussions are going to start closer to spring training. So coming up within the next, I would say 6 weeks. I'm not going to say the number after 6 because I'm not playing into that meme. But I would say in about 6 weeks or more, that's when the new CBA talks are going to happen. That's when deeper things are going to happen. And then come November, after the 2026 season, that's when things really should heat up. But they're already volatile. You have players who, a lot of people are calling for Rob Manfred's head, but you have players calling for Rob Manfred's head. You have players who won't even speak to him if he wants to bring up the CBA, which in a union sense that also makes sense. But you have to look at the fact that if these talks are already this volatile and they're not even formal talks, super formal talks I should say, it's not looking good. It is not looking good. And honestly, if I will do this, if come December of 2026, if a new deal is reached before or just after the 2020, this current CBA expires on December 1st, if they reach a deal by then without a strike, I will eat one of the Impossible Burgers on live on YouTube on camera. And I am a person that hates those things. I absolutely hate those things. I will do it live on camera because with this Kyle Tucker deal and with how talks are how volatile the talks are, there's just no way. There's absolutely no way. Now, enough of that. I think not to be all, because that was kind of doom and gloomy, and I didn't mean it to go into that way. That was more, I wanted to just bring light as to why the Kyle Tucker deal was essentially bad for baseball, but also why the Kyle Tucker deal essentially ensures almost without a doubt ensures that there's going to be a strike because of how insane the Dodgers payroll is just becoming. Now, let's get into something fun. In less than a month, Major League Baseball is going to have pitchers and catchers reporting. I know for the Rockies, pitchers and catchers report on February 12th, And everybody else, it's going to float between February 11th to I think February 13th, maybe even a little earlier than that. So that, I mean, baseball season is essentially right around the corner, and I'm really excited for that. I wish I could be going down to spring training to watch it, but I won't be this year. Maybe next year. Um, but it's going to be exciting. I know there's a lot of talk coming out of like the Toronto camp with Bo Bichette leaving and them not being able to. I think they were in on the Alex Bregman deal, but that didn't happen. And then you have the insanity of the Kyle Tucker deal. Because I know they were in on that. It was coming down to the LA Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. And surprise, surprise, the LA Dodgers eked them out. But it's going to be interesting for the Blue Jays because they're not going to have Bo Bichette, I should say, because I know some of my Broncos people are listening right now, and I'm not talking about Bo Nix' unfortunate situation, which I will talk about in the next episode, actually, but we'll get back to that. But Bo Bichette signed a 3-year, $126 million deal with the Mets, so that secures a shortstop position for the Mets, but what are the Blue Jays going to do? And then you have, I mean, I could go on and on and on all day about what's going to come out of spring training, but I'm going to more talk about that in a later episode with what I want to see or what I'm looking for out of each MLB team. But I mean, baseball fans get excited. It's less than a month, man. Less than a month. You have just about 3.5 weeks until pitchers and catchers report. Few days later, the rest of the team reports, and then I want to say a week to 2 weeks after that, it's spring training games and baseball season's right underway. I'm excited about it. You know, as much as I'm loving this football season, especially with the Broncos, you got to be excited about baseball season, and you know, I'm looking forward to what this year brings. I'm hoping some good stuff before this collective bargaining agreement happens or doesn't happen, depending on how you look at it. And this is going to be really fun, especially with the Rockies bringing a young team with veteran leadership, bringing it, tying everything back to the Rockies, because this is more what we're focused on this podcast, is what will these young pitchers, young position players do, and how will they perform? But you also have veteran leadership right behind, either ahead of them or behind them. Most of them is going to be ahead of them, quite frankly, with Lorenzen, Castro, McCarthy. You have a lot of veteran leadership, which the Rockies were really, really lacking. This brings light to going back to my first episode with what Paul DePodesta said in a couple of interviews. He is going to make these players earn it. He is going to make these young prospects earn it. So I know I'm slightly repeating myself from an episode or 2 episodes ago, but that's what it is. It's what these signings, it's what these players are looking at. It's what the Rockies need, quite frankly. Now, would I like to see them sign a first baseman? Absolutely. They're desperate for a first baseman right now. I know Nathaniel Lowe and Paul Goldschmidt are still out there, and that's right in that range. More of an above average player, um, more than what you would look at in regards to what the Rockies need, but within a reasonable signing range. So I'm personally hoping for Nathaniel Lowe. I think that's a far fetched. Even Paul Goldschmidt is far fetched. But the Rockies do need to sign a veteran first baseman. It's without question. They need to sign a veteran first baseman. And I'm not telling Paul DePodesta how to do his job because he can. If it was between me and Paul, he would have me in a landslide 5 ways to Sunday, even with the amount of baseball knowledge I have. He was hired for a reason. I just, as a baseball fan, and from what I've seen that the Rockies need, Nathaniel Lowe and Paul Goldschmidt are kind of those players that you look at as like good veteran leadership, above average, slightly above average statistics with solid defense. That's more what I look at for what the Rockies need. But I think we're gonna kind of wrap this episode up. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed, me diving into the Rockies signing Willi Castro. I hope you guys enjoyed, the talk about the Kyle Tucker deal with the Dodgers and what that means for Major League Baseball in the future. And I really hope that you guys are excited as I am for, spring training. It's coming up. It's right there. And there's going to be a lot to talk about. Not just with the Rockies, but you have a lot to talk about in regards to Major League Baseball in general with each team. And in a future episode, I'm definitely going to be diving into that. But I hope you guys have a great day. And coming up in the next episode, we're going to be talking about. It's going to be a very non-baseball episode because remember I said at the beginning this is going to be a baseball focused podcast, but I am going to cover other sports. So we're going to be talking about, the NFL playoffs, Bo Nix's unfortunate situation with his broken ankle, the controversial call in the Buffalo Bills Denver Broncos game, and what the timeline is for Bo Nix in regards to the offseason. And yeah, I hope to catch you guys in the next episode. Please hit like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Baselines to Sidelines. Follow me on X at. You would think I would have my own handle memorized. Nick Den, DEN B24. Give me a follow on X, or as I like to call it still, Twitter. Give me a follow on Twitter for more Rockies updates and when I post an episode. I hope to catch you guys in the next episode. This was the Baselines to Sidelines podcast. Signing out.